Well, welcome back everybody to the Force India career mode at long last then. As per usual, a stupidly long gap between this one and the last one, but once again I'll make probably a fake promise of trying to make them more regular. But we're in Mexico, and just before we move on to Mexico from Suzuka, from USA, sorry, I decided to make an upgrade with the chassis. We've been concentrating on the aerodynamics mostly this season, because that's the real weak point of this car, but I thought, you know, as it's coming to the end of the season, let's try and make a few improvements to the stronger sides of our car to make them even better. So I thought, let's get a chassis upgrade underway and see if it can be achieved for Mexico. But of course, this is F1 2017, and of course it failed. So it was worth a go. It was a bit risky going for a chassis part. We don't have any of the boosters that make the parts more reliable in terms of them actually succeeding. So we're going to have to spend another 500 points. Probably not even until Brazil will have that amount of points to get that chassis upgrade for certain. But as we come into practice then, in Mexico. Now Mexico, I love the track. I love the sort of atmosphere that the race has in real life. That stadium section is something that an awful lot more places need. This sort of natural aerodome in which they hold the podium ceremony. And it's a track that's really growing on me. The first section is really fast with very hard braking points. Then there's a little sort of Mickey Mouse bit, and then the sort of second half of the lap is so flowing. You have to balance the car so much, and these curves really remind me of Silverstone, Maggots and Beckett's. And of course the stadium section, whilst tricky to get the car through, as you can see now down into the tight right-hander, it's a lovely corner, and these are the tricky ones, but it's kind of made all the better by the fact you're surrounded by a giant stadium. You really have to be patient with the car here all the way until just the exit of the final corner. But practice went pretty well. We got some points in the bag, and I'm hoping, you know, F1 2018 will probably be August, September again, so I'm hoping we can at least get a second season complete. So hopefully we can get enough upgrades during the beginning of next season to sort of be challenging towards the front at the end of it, and that might be a nice end to the career mode, even if we can't win the championship. Now, what I've done for this weekend, this is one area we really need to improve next year, is the reliability of our engine components. I've taken an extra component of every element, which means we will be starting at the back of the grid, but then we'll have them in abundance for the final two races in Brazil and Abu Dhabi. So it's a little bit of pain here, but we will have brand new engine components, so with the two long straights and DRS zones we should be able to fly past some traffic early on, so it shouldn't be too much of a hindrance. Whereas Brazil and Abu Dhabi, you can quickly get stuck behind cars if you're starting towards the back of the field, so it's probably the best place for us to take it. But as we get through qualifying one then, just a tenth off the pace from Perez, and the last few races it's definitely confirmed that we're on the right difficulty setting for the moment, because we've been so close to Sergio in almost every qualifying session, and I think we're really well matched in terms of Perez is one of the stronger AI in terms of the teammates you can have, and I really feel like we're pushing each other every race. Now, as on form of anybody that's watching my Motorsport Manager series will know, I have a thing about missing out qualifying at the moment, and I didn't record qualifying 3, so our fastest lap I'm going to show you is going to be from Q2, so as always sit back, relax and watch a lap of Mexico. As we come around the final corner then, it's going to be over the line for a 1:19.0, which is our fastest lap all weekend. And it's going to be enough to comfortably get us through to Q3. And as I said, unfortunately, I didn't record the Q3 lap, but this was actually our fastest lap of the whole weekend. Now, I know we're starting at the back because of the penalties, but it's still worth doing qualifying because you'll get resource points for hitting objectives and, of course, for beating our teammate. And as we go into the results of Q3 then, you can see it remained incredibly close between me and Perez. Probably the closest qualifying of the year all the way through. But we just about out-qualify him in 7th. And it shows that we've got great pace, and with those new engine components, hopefully we can make our way through the field from the back at a rapid rate.
And joining me amongst the cheers of the phenomenal Mexican fans, it's Anthony Davidson. And welcome along to this historic circuit. What an occasion this is.
Yeah, it's hard to believe when you see the passion this country has for the sport that Formula One was away from Mexico for so long. It's fantastic to be here, and let's hope that the race lives up to the party atmosphere we've got going. It's a real fast track, this. We get up to Monza levels of speed down the main straight thanks to the high altitude here at over 2,000 metres above sea level. And with that comes the challenge of having less downforce in the corners. So that makes it a really demanding circuit, both for the drivers and engineers.
And as we go through the grid then, on race day, you can see Lewis Hamilton with a big penalty, but there's penalties all round with Magnussen, Grosjean, Alonso, Kvyat and ourselves all with engine penalties or gearbox penalties. So it's a nice element to see to this this career mode, the fact the AI are obviously going through the same problems with power units as they do in real life, and it's something that could really add spice to a title challenge or a title battle if we ever get there. You know, taking that penalty really could be the difference between winning a title or not for the AI or yourself. But as we line up on the line then for round number 18, just 3 races to go now, and we need to make a good start off the line and try and make up some places early. And unfortunately, because we qualified in the top 10, we have to start on the ultra soft tyres. I would have much preferred to go on harder compound early on here, but it should enable us to get off the line well and make up a few places. And we're already up in 17th into turn 1. We take a look up the inside of the 2 Saubers, who are battling pretty hard, and we're about to find out if there is room here for 3 wide, and there is just about. We're a little bit slow on exit, but it doesn't matter. We've made up 5 places off the line, and we can now go hunting for the young Canadian Lance Stroll ahead of us. And we do take a look at him into turn 3. Have a think about going around the outside of Palmer, but it's probably the slowest corner on the track, that little right-hander, and there's no room to get past. But 14th after literally 4 or 5 corners, we really couldn't have expected to make a better start than that. And we want to get into the top 10, you know, inside the top 5 or 6 laps, so that our teammate and the Red Bulls don't get away from us, just in case we have got the pace here to challenge them. So we take a look down the inside of Palmer and really misjudge it completely. Luckily, it's one of those, what I would call a perfectly executed move, but it was completely lucky that we actually banged wheels with Van Dorn and not any other part of the car. You can see on board with Van Dorn there, where we just forced him wide. And then on to lap 3 then, Lewis Hamilton starting 12th because of his grid penalty. Has not really made much progress early on here. He's stuck behind this chain of cars that are stuck behind Nico Hülkenberg, who's struggling for pace early on here. And there's not many opportunities we've had this season to make a move on the same tyres for race position on a 4-time world champion, actually 3-time world champion at this point, aiming to be 4 times this season. And we almost get the move done. Hamilton, as ever, will not give up any position though, and we seem to be lucky with those wheel-on-wheel contacts today. I would say it's skill, it's really not, it's just complete luck that we're happening to hit wheel to wheel. But we do get that move done, and it was more to try and get past these group of cars before Sainz and Massa get past Hülkenberg. We're very unlikely to be fighting Hamilton today, but if we can get past the roadblock that is Hülkenberg before everybody else does, then we've got a chance to put some distance between us and the chasing pack. And we can just see here again from the TV cameras this battle with Hamilton, who tries to stick it around the outside. It's the inside for turn 3. Little bang of wheels, but of course we've got everything brand new in the engine components, the turbochargers, the electronic systems, everything anyway is brand new. So we've got the jump on pretty much any car this afternoon, and that's made abundantly clear with the aid of DRS on Felipe Massa the following laps. That puts us up into 9th. And again, as I said, Hulkenberg is clearly a roadblock here for Sainz and Massa. If we can get past the pair of them before anybody else gets past Hulkenberg, then we can get up the road and make the middle of the race a little bit easier in terms of flexibility of the stops. So into the stadium section now. We've been great through those S's all weekend, but we've not been great into that corner. Completely outjudged ourselves for the second time with the race. Once again avoiding major damage. We almost lose a place to Lance Stroll. There's actually a little bit of contact on the rear as the Canadian tries to muscle his way through. And it's nothing gained, nothing given. And we wait a little bit later into the lap then in the second DRS zone to make another move on Carlos Sainz down the inside. This time we will get the move done. We won't actually. We cut back down the inside for the inside line to the double right-hander. Again, so close to bumping wheels. I'm loving racing the AI this year. They really are the best that Codemasters have produced. Nobody gets out the way. They're still aggressive, but there's no stupid side swipes or side block glitches that we've seen in the past couple of years. So I really feel confident going wheel to wheel. And say we've been so good through those S's all weekend. Hulkenberg clearly struggling in this race, hence he's holding everybody up. And we get that move done nice and early. Finally get the braking point right into that right-hander, and we're ahead by the stadium section. So that's us up into P7. And say we want to make hay while the sun shines, and try and make as big a gap as we can between ourselves and that group behind. At this point we're a long way behind Perez and Co, so I think 7th is possibly the best we can achieve. We would expect Hamilton to maybe get back past us for 8th. But we're going to come into the pits here to get rid of our ultra softs. We've gone a couple of laps longer. Perez unfortunately has just pitted ahead of us, so we lost about half a second while the pit crew wake up and fit the super softs to us. But we're back out then. I think it's going to be 13th. Yes, 13th place. Hamilton has got past us, obviously. Either stayed out a couple of laps longer or pitted a couple of laps earlier, I can't remember, to make sure that he got the jump on us. But say we're not really racing him this afternoon. But crucially, we're ahead of Sainz and Massa, who are now past Hulkenberg. And you're going to see the real difference here between the Mercedes and the Honda engine, as we've seen all season long, especially with ours being so fresh. With DRS, there's, you know, by the time we're down to the braking zone, we've forgotten all about Van Dorn. We got past him so long ago. And we can see Hamilton just ahead of us. We've just got a radio message to tell us that Hamilton is struggling and he's got a problem with his car. And in this year's game, you never know how long that's going to last. It could last the entire race, it could only be a couple of laps. So we need to take this opportunity if we can, because it might be our best opportunity to get some extra points and stay ahead of a Mercedes this afternoon. So we make the move as soon as we can. He's really struggling through the corners, so it's presumably a brake issue, because he's slow into them, but fine down the straights. So we get that move done. That puts us into a provisional 9th. We've got another McLaren ahead of us in Fernando Alonso, and I think there's someone else that's pitted as well. There's a very slow Julian Palmer, a lap down then. Really not the Renault's day. And I guess the one positive for Julian Palmer is he can't be fired in this game. He will be here next season no matter what, unless we take his seat at Renault, which I don't think is going to happen. And we're going to see another very easy pass on the McLaren here then. Alonso still yet to pit on those super soft tyres. We've got fresh super softs, a fresh Mercedes engine and DRS. And there's going to be a few more radio messages of GP2 engine coming from the Spaniard this afternoon, I'm sure. And the final car that hasn't pitted that's in our way then is Romain Grosjean. And a little bit more grunt in his Ferrari power pack. And even with DRS, it's going to have to be done into the braking zone. And we just about get it done in time. Grosjean uncharacteristically late on the brakes there. He's not normally got much trust in those Haas brakes. But he had a little go there at trying to hold us off. But we got fresh tyres, fresh engine, DRS, a faster car. So it was always going to be pretty simple. And we really just get the hammer down now on these super softs. We've made a gap. Obviously, there's a couple of people out of position here that have pitted ahead of, from ahead of us, like Ricardo. but the gap between ourselves and Hamilton is about 10 seconds at this point. We have been informed that his car has solved its issues, so he's going to be coming back at us strongly in this final stint. But there was nothing really to report for 10 laps. We just got the hammer down, extended the gap to Hamilton while we could, and just about held it when he got back up to pace. And we're going to come back out here in P6, thankfully ahead of Fernando Alonso, who is on the ultra soft tyres, which, well, I say would be a roadblock, probably not with that Honda engine, but it's still one thing less we have to worry about. And Lewis, who pitted a couple laps earlier for the soft tyres, has now brought this gap down to around about 5 seconds. So we have the quicker tyres, but we know how quick that Mercedes is, so we're really going to have to get the hammer down. I'm using that phrase a lot today. I think it's because we're just referencing Lewis Hamilton and his old hammer time. But we're sort of holding the gap at the moment, and the main reason for that is we've just put in the best best lap of not just our race, but of the entire race. And that, what was it, a 1:18.8, I think I can read from my screen here, was actually the fastest lap of the race by the end as well. And nothing really happened with us, but we are going to go to our teammate now. Of course, in his home Grand Prix, has made a late stop for the Ultrasofts, and down into turn 1, he is challenging Kimi Räikkönen for 4th place. And a little lock up into turn 1, but it shows the pace of this Force India car. Perez has been up there with them the last few races, and the very next lap, I can't even imagine the fanaticism that would have been coming from the crowd here in Mexico as he goes around the outside of Daniel Ricciardo to take 3rd position. And that is the way it stays until the end, as he comes through the stadium packed with everybody there to see him. Sergio Perez is going to take a podium in Mexico, his first of the season, and to be honest, well earned from him. He's been superb the sort of second half of the season, been a real challenge for us. We're going to come around in 6th. We gave it absolutely everything. We closed the gap to Ricciardo from about 13 to about 6 or 7 seconds, but it wasn't enough to fight with them. And I think coming from the back of the grid, we've just got to appreciate that that's a great effort, and we'll take the points and move on to the next one. But we'll just take a moment to appreciate Sergio Perez, our teammate, on the podium. You know, a lot is spoken of sort of rivalries between teammates and they're your worst enemy. You know, I feel me and Perez are really working to join those top guys on a permanent basis. And I would love a title fight with him, but I've got to be happy to see him on the podium, to see Force India on the podium again, because it shows great pace from the car. And his lap times back it up as well. It wasn't just the strategy of being on those Ultrasofts for the final stop. He really was quick throughout the race. And I'm happy to be within sort of 6-7 seconds of that front group, or of the Perez, Raikkonen, Ricciardo group, considering we started at the back of the grid. Making up those places early on was crucial, and that's probably the best we could do today. Obviously, we lucked into Lewis Hamilton having issues, and because we were on the faster compound, we were actually able to stay ahead of him for the rest of the race, and kept that gap around 5 seconds throughout the final stint. So, pretty happy with that. Some good points. A pretty bad race for Verstappen out of the points means we actually gain on Red Bull for the first time, but we'll look at the drivers first. That elevates us back up ahead of Verstappen, and now we've only 5 points between us and Ricciardo. It's going to be a fight to the finish. Sergio Perez puts himself over a century of points and isn't quite on the same level as the 2 Red Bulls and myself, but if he continues with some results like that, he may well join us by the end of the season. And this car does seem to be getting quicker and quicker. All the tracks are suiting them better. I don't know. But the aerodynamic changes we've made throughout the season have definitely improved on tracks that maybe shouldn't suit us so much. And it closes the gap up to Red Bull. It's still around about 40 points, just under. So it's going to need a bit of a miracle in Brazil and Abu Dhabi. Of course, no double points or anything to help us out. So it's going to need a pretty disastrous last couple of races from Red Bull. But we'll give it a try, and we're a lot closer than I ever thought we would by the end of the season. And that's what we wanted. We wanted to be challenging Red Bull, not necessarily in the championship, but just on track by the end of the season. And we've definitely achieved that, even if our qualifying pace is a little bit behind. Our race pace seems to be a lot better. So that is going to be it from Mexico then. Next time out, we shall be in Brazil for the penultimate round of the season. And Sao Paulo is a track I absolutely adore. and I'm generally very quick around there. So hopefully, without any grid penalties, and with that chassis upgrade, hopefully after... Actually, I don't think we had enough points to do it this time. So it may well be Abu Dhabi before we get that chassis upgrade, unfortunately. But hopefully we can have a good race there. I hope you guys are still enjoying this series. I will try and get Brazil and Abu Dhabi out within, I'd say, a 2-week period, and then we can start a brand new season. But as always, I hope you guys enjoyed. Like if you did, subscribe if you're new, and I will see you again next time.